I know there's so many good conversations going on, but I also want to make sure that we're staying on time and that you have a chance to hear all the great insights from our panel coming up here. We're pleased to have with us Jackie Applegate, who's on my far left, your right. She's the president of Bayer Crop Science. Jeff Simmons, the president and CEO of Elanco Animal Health. Cathy Burns, the president and CEO of the International Fresh Produce Association, Aaron Wetzel, vice president production and precision ag for John Deere, and Lars, Dyrud, the CEO of EarthOptics. So we are ready to roll here with not only their comments, but we hope to have your questions come in via Slido as well. So I'm going to start, Jackie, with you. You have been, and Bayer has been, at really the forefront of innovation in so many ways. I mean, we heard some of it this morning when there was talk about pennycress coming on for SAF, also just the products and the insights that you're able to capture from your different systems. Talk to us a little bit more about how you're currently incentivizing growers to be more climate smart in their practices.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here. Been with the company about 31 years. We fundamentally look at the perspective of how we can help farmers produce more and restoring more, which we call regenerative ag. And what we look at are what are the outcomes and benefits that farmers can basically focus on from a productivity, how they can be most profitable, and at the same time, how they can reduce their overall environmental footprint. And so some examples, for instance, from an incentivization perspective, like innovation is key for us, or like our smart corn system, which is called Pression, is an example where farmers have short corn. It's a short stature corn where you have the protection from weather. You have access where farmers can use their productivity tools to spray fungicides or actually fertilizers, and then it actually increases yields. The uniqueness of the overall system is the incentive, like with cover cress, that they can come in with a rotation between crop and soy, and they're able then to plant that as a rotational crop, which then they can harvest in between the seasons of planting, which then allows them also, of course, to have a production oil, and then you're able to separate that, and then you have the protein content for feed. We also utilize, of course, digital technologies and tools overall with our planting systems, which then goes to our foreground, our carbon program. And with our carbon program, we have a full cycle program where we are actually in the carbon credit aspect, but what we do is allow farmers to be paid per acre for no-till practices, also for like their nitrogen programs they're using, their water management and elements like that. So that's how we're incentivizing farmers to have smart climate practices and allow them to be more successful.
Thanks. And Jeff, you and your partners are working on new technology that can really make a huge difference in the dairy space. Tell us a little bit more about how that works and what else you're excited about in terms of new products coming online.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to Agri-Pulse. Congratulations. Tremendous success. So we're about cattle. Elanco's been in the animal business for 70 years. But I think there's just a real quick, COP26 2 years ago, the United Nations came out and said just removal of animals is the solution. 2 years later, this past year, they said it's productivity and it's doing, better things with the animal because the data, their own data said we ate more meat last year than any time in the history of man globally, and it will grow 50% the next decade. Why? We're all on these high-protein diets, and the GNP continues to grow. So you know what? We're not going to change the world's diet. We got to fix it. And it all comes back to methane. 30% of U.S. ag footprint comes back to enteric methane, the inside of cattle. It's the front end of the cow. It's the burping, not the back end of the cow. It's 5 times more potent up front than it is out back. So it's a $2 billion new industry. And it is I was in London last week, and half the room is innovating around enteric methane reduction. And we can talk, we've got some technology that's coming, but you can't disconnect this choice this calories and climate need to be connected. We have 60% of the world getting the wrong calories, either not enough or the wrong ones. We've got the only way we're going to solve this climate thing by the end of the decade and start slowing it down is methane, not carbon. And people want to eat more meat. So we're creating a revolution of innovation on the inside and the rumen of the cow. And so we're starting, we received our first product approval about 7 years ago. It took quite a bit longer, but Experior, one of our products that has what we say a footprint claim, not a feed conversion claim. But the biggest one that's coming is we have a product that's already approved in 44 other countries called 3NOP or Bovaer that will reduce dairy methane enterically by 30% and beef 50%. What's critical, though, my last thing I'll say is, before this product came to the market, and it's on a path to the first half of this year to come, so we're not talking about years and years away, it's going to start to happen this year. We ended last year with the creation of an inset livestock carbon market, everybody. And what that simply means is you have consumer product good companies like Nestle, Dannon, Starbucks, that for a gallon of milk, somewhere between 1% of their cost converts to about $20 to $30 per cow per day. And that has already been monetized. The farmer needs to have a database that is certified independently. With that database, any intervention that's been approved independently, like a Bovaer, actually will get quantified. That gets independently monetized by these independent companies like Athian, and then that carbon is purchased by the CPG companies. Why? We need incentives, government incentives to start, but it can't be what's long-term. Farmer profitability independently is what makes this work, and that's been proven, that's been done. Carbon's already been monetized in the US and an inset market in the dairy market. So inset market, technology coming, and many, many dozens of companies doing innovation on the inside of the cow. The cow's the how, as we say. We think we can get on offense in American dairy. That's the plan.
Thanks, Jeff. And Cathy, normally when we start talking about climate smart practices, we tend to get into broad acre crops. But you are taking a real leadership role from the specialty crop angle. One of the challenges I know you face is just data and having the collection of that data that is usually all around broadacre, but not so much around the fruits and vegetables you work with. How are you working to fill those gaps and make sure that you can have that data and measurement that is going to be so important going forward?
Great. Yeah, thank you, Sara. And again, I would like to certainly add my thanks and congratulations to you and the team. Just incredible accomplishments, so congratulations. So I sit here and represent the fruit and vegetable and flower industry, as Sara mentioned. So if you want to improve your mental well-being, look at the middle of your table. That will certainly help you do that right off the bat. And we do hope, actually, American diets and the world diets continue to shift and change because only 1 in 10 Americans are eating the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables every day. And we are actually the original plant-based food. So we have a lot of opportunity. Just saying. So as we, obviously, what's interesting is probably over the last few years, sustainability was probably ranked number 10 for specialty crops in terms of importance. It's now in the top 3. So labor continues to stay at the highest level, but certainly sustainability is knocking on the door. And we did a body of research that basically said climate and natural disasters are the 2 things that can take us out. And if you look at the median temperature that they're projecting, 1.5 to 4.5% Celsius in a future state, at 4.5% Celsius, that knocks agriculture out of the game. And as we heard earlier today, imports are already exceeding exports. So this topic is becoming more and more and more important for our industry. We benefited from a USDA Climate Smart grant of about $15 million to be able to, 2 things we want to do. One way to address the climate crisis is eat more fruits and vegetables. We're not only the most nutritious product, but second to sports drinks, we are the best for the planet. Best for nutrition, best for the planet. And sports drinks are what? Water and sugar. So we have a great claim as an industry already, but you're absolutely right. We need to be able to have data not only to support the work we're doing, but to get us into the green economy, because we're not there right now. And the way we're going to get this data is by using small farms, big farms, any type of specialty crop farm that will be a beneficiary of this Climate Smart grant, where we're actually going to track the results of new interventions that will happen at the farm level. Because when I think about climate, the farmer's at the front line of the climate fight, of the sustainability fight. And there are so many headwinds coming at farmers already that the opportunity to be able to get more efficient and to drive ultimately the consumption of products, which sales cures all. So let's get people eating more fruits and vegetables. But in the meantime, we have over 100, we have to have, as part of the grant, we have to have 100 farmers. We have 100 farmers and a wait list in order to be part of this Climate Smart opportunity. And we're going to learn, and we're going to collect data, and it will position us well to get in the game as the fruit and vegetable and flower industry.
Super. Aaron, when you think about the innovations, and I know we're going to talk about a lot of different innovations today, but Deere's certainly been at the forefront of that as well. You had the LEAP ambitions in 2022. Talk to us just a little bit more about what's in the pipeline, what are you rolling out in terms of not only data collection, but some equipment that can better target what farmers need to do to be more climate smart in the field.
Great. And thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and congratulations on a wonderful program here. You know, at John Deere, we've been around for over 180 years and really focused on our customers and how do we help them improve their operations, their yield, but also improve the sustainability of their operations. And that's what's exciting about John Deere right now is the investments we're making in new technologies to make it easy for our customers to do the things that we've been talking about here on the panel. They're working the field every day with our equipment. They're traversing through the fields, spraying the chemicals, the fungicides, the insecticides. The technologies now that Deere makes available is we can do that more sustainably by allowing them to do it with less chemicals. Our See and Spray technology is one example where we're using artificial intelligence, camera systems, high-speed computing on our machines today, going through the field at 15 miles an hour and discerning whether that's a plant or a weed and only spraying the weed. This is saving our producers nearly 60% in chemical costs. That's directly to their bottom line, but it's also helping them produce more crop and do so in a much more environmentally sustainable manner. And we're doing that across numerous production systems. Being able to pull the data as the farmers are going through the fields in each step from planting, spraying, and harvesting into our John Deere Operations Center, which is this area that is in the cloud holding all of the information for our customers to make better decisions. And I was just meeting with a customer here this afternoon before we were on the stage here, and he pulls out his iPhone and shows me his machines operating in his field in Texas. So thank you for doing that, but it shows you the power of the data that is coming to help our farmers do their jobs more easily. And we're taking that across multiple production systems. You mentioned broadacre farming, and the spraying of broadacre farms is one example. We're also doing it in the dairy business. Through our collaboration with De Laval and Data Dairy Warehouse, we're building a milk sustainability tool for producers to track their nitrogen use efficiency from field all the way through the entire process. So we're just kicking that off in Europe and here in the US. And so it's exciting for us to be able to take our technology investments and lever it across multiple production systems, even for the fruit and vegetable producers. A recent acquisition by us, Smart Apply, where we are actually doing variable rate spraying for blast spraying. And again, seeing customers with much more savings in terms of the chemicals that they put on their crops. But again, significant savings to their bottom line, which they need desperately. So making them a more sustainable operation for themselves profitably, but also for the environment. So a lot happening at Deere, lots of investments we're making, and what's exciting is being able to really spear this for the future.
Thanks. And Lars, we'll turn to you here. We know how important measurement and mapping is in terms of being able to verify lower carbon intensity. And I had a chance to see your system in Kansas City last fall and what you're doing and how exciting it is to be able to collect the data that you're collecting. Tell us how your system works on EarthOptics.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having us, and thanks for putting on such a great event. So EarthOptics, we're a soil mapping company with an emphasis on mapping. So we map and measure every single soil property that people would be interested in, usually physical characteristics like compaction and standard chemistry and nutrients. But we also measure carbon, and we're measuring a majority of the carbon for carbon projects happening in the United States right now. And we do things kind of the same way as always, but a little bit differently and more efficiently. So we still take soil samples, which is how soil has been measured for about 100 years or so. But in addition to that, we measure with sensors that are on tractors, on ATVs, and satellites as well to make really high-resolution maps. And so that allows us to make much more accurate quantifications of soil properties because soil is so variable. You measure soil in one place, you go 10 feet away, it's completely different characteristics. And so that's really the big challenge when it comes to measuring soils, including carbon. And so we use sensors and satellite to try to reduce the number of soil samples. So we're often using about 5 times fewer soil samples, which means much lower cost. So I'd like to say we're usually about 5 times more accurate and about half the price of traditional soil sampling.
Thank you very much. And as a reminder, please send your questions in on Slido. This is your chance to really pick the minds of some great experts here. So we'll look forward to seeing some of those on screen as soon as they get generated here. Jackie, you started to talk a little bit about some of the new innovations in seed and the plant breeding that's going on at Bayer, and also the acquisitions that you've made for new companies. Share a little bit more about what you think is possible with either some of your shorter stature corn, some of the cover crops, and I know even in fruit and vegetable, there's some innovations going on to enable plants to be grown in a certain size for more robotic harvesting and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, all those technologies, especially in seed, are, you know, really critical. I mean, it's the first decision a farmer makes, right, is their selection in seed. And what we see is with, you know, increased traits, germplasm and things, and, you know, if you think about, like, with our Preceon, you know, we see a stronger root system, for instance, which we believe, I mean, we're looking at this as we evolve our technologies to understand, is carbon sequestration better? Is there not as much, is it more drought tolerant and things like that? So that's our big technology in corn. Of course, then, as we look into soy, we're looking at our multi-stack for HT4 soy, which is really key. And then what, you know, and as I was sitting here and I was listening to the panel, what I find interesting is if I think about, because I've been in the business 30 years, and companies from a technology perspective, often you did it yourself, but I was sitting as everybody was talking and thinking about how I'm partnering and collaborating with people sitting here, like Vibrant Future, for what we're working, you know, with fresh produce, and in helping specialty farmers. You know, those 100 farmers, we're working also with the seeds, the crop protection chemical, or when I think about Deere and See and Spray and with precision technology, or EarthOptics, and you're working with us in Bare Carbon. And I think one of the interesting points is that, you know, all the standard businesses that we've all worked in, it's about us combining overall our technologies, which is really going to make a difference to take climate smart innovation in those technologies to the next front to be net zero. And I think that that's something that we really shouldn't underestimate the power of that.
Did you want to add to that, Cathy?
Yeah, if I could just build on that, I 100% subscribe to collaboration is the new currency. And we actually have an accelerator at IFPA where we're actually looking for companies to come in with in adjacent categories with technology that they could apply to specialty crops. And we bring them in and do a full immersion in the specialty crop industry. 12 companies are selected from around the world. And last year we focused on climate smart. This year we'll probably end up focusing on climate smart technologies. And 3 of the accelerator companies from last year were just named as Times Best Agri-Tech Green something award. But the fact that they're starting to, the collaboration, yes, in adjacent industries, I mean, the 5 of us could get together and really make something pretty special happen. So collaboration absolutely is the new currency.
sounds like we've got the start of some good things going here on this panel. Jeff, one of the questions came in well, actually one I was going to ask anyway, and you said you've been busy this morning meeting with regulators. The question is, what's the product rollout timeline for your new Bovaer product in the U.S.? So share with us a little bit about how long it takes, how much it costs to get through regulatory systems, and what you're looking at for timeline.
Yeah, so I think I think the line is we have a path here for a first half 2024 approval, and with an FDA approval, it's rolling, it's iterative, and there's regulatory situation. But I think it's progressing very nicely. I do think it opens up though this discussion here that to make sustainability work, there's a few principles that have to happen. One is farmer profitability. It's not going to last if this is built on incentives, because the American farmer sees that quickly and they won't adopt. So our market research says with even a product like Bovaer, there has to be a way long term. So we're appreciative of what the USDA has done with the IRA and the RCPPs. I think it's going to fuel it, but it can't be what sustains it. I do think back to the regulatory, there needs to be new regulatory paths. I think having an FDA approval keeps the standard high. It keeps the right innovation in. You don't want to have things that can get in that aren't regulated. So I'm a big believer. And I think the FDA, the Center of Veterinary Medicine, and others are doing some great things to say, hey, how do we create alternative pathways that keep the standards high, but also don't make it take 12 years and hundreds of millions of dollars when that doesn't, it's going to stop innovators from coming. So that I think is the second. I think the other is this data piece is the data has to connect. We have to be more pre-competitive across industries where the data connects. And then you got to have these independent certifiers. We have a new regulator called, whether it's SCS Global or whatever, you have to have data systems certified by the outside or the greenwashing thing's going to hit us. So I think regulated, collaborative data, farmer profitability are just new standards to make this work. And that's what we were doing last year with the livestock inset market, is really testing these to ensure it happens. And I think there'll be a new node in the industry. We got this company called Athian that's spun out, and Tyson and others have invested. We have to have an aggregator, certifier, and monetizer of carbon. Somebody has to independently take what the farmer's doing, collect it, certify it, so that a Nestle can buy the carbon. And if not, that market's not going to get created. And that's being established. So those, I would say, to answer your question, we're on path for a first half. These things are instrumental to make this sustainable.
So let's, I'll throw this out to everybody on the panel then. What does harmonization of data look like from your perspectives? I mean, we've got, a little bit here, a little there. We've got USDA, which has got a lot of these pilot programs out there. But at the end of the day, what do you think it's going to look like? And so we can have apples to apples comparisons across these measurements.
I can take a quick stab. I think we're probably pretty early days, and I think the climate smart programs are really doing a tremendous benefit by injecting dollars and experimentation into the industry. But as the years go on, we are probably going to have to go a similar direction like organics did, which started out kind of like the way we are with climate smart. And there's going to have to be some regulatory standards applied to what do you have to do in order to claim X or Y. So that's probably some five or more years out. But once we get there, I think my personal dream is it looks a lot like the nutrition label on food, where when we look at a nutrition label, we trust what we read there. We don't doubt that 130 calories means 130 calories or 5 grams of protein. We need the exact same thing for these climate attributes. And once we have that, I think we're going to see really exciting new revenue streams passed back to our producers for producing those attributes that are going to sell for more in the market once people really trust what they're seeing and what they're reading. So I think it's 5 years or so, but we're in the middle of that transition.
Yeah, if I could add, I think from Deere's perspective, with our John Deere Operations Center really being the hub of data for our customers, but more importantly, the interoperability of that data to other systems. So having the customer who opts into that, being able to choose if they want to share their data with their Bayer colleague or their De Laval colleague or whoever it is in the industry that they want to do business with, they can do that, and they can do it easily. And I think that's one of the key elements that we're investing in, is try to make it as easy as possible for the customers to capture the necessary data that they need, have it seamlessly go up into the cloud, but then they choose on where they want to send that data to do the things that we're talking about here in this panel. One example for Deere is we have a relationship with Cargill, with their regen program, that we're capturing the data for them. We're making it very easy in our operations center. We have a section that's focused just on sustainability partnerships, and they can then use that to share their data with Cargill to get back the credits that they're wanting in support of this whole sustainability effort. So our focus is, how do we make it easy? How do we make it interoperable? I don't know if that's the right word or not, but easily flow from whatever source they have to another entity, ultimately to drive the outcomes that we're looking for.
I would also add, we need to align around the standards. I mean, specialty crops has, what, 600 commodities that we represent, and there's a lot of buyers for all those commodities. And so our VP of Sustainability is actually leading a global effort to harmonize the standards for sustainability, for regen, for carbon, whatever so that there's alignment. We're working with the Consumer Goods Forum based out of Paris that represents all the buyers. So how do we get alignment so that we're all talking the same language? Because if not, we're going to have scope creep. There's going to be confusion. People are going to want to pay for different things. And we don't want to head down that road if we can avoid it, for sure. We saw that with food safety. Trying to get harmonized standards for food safety is critical. We don't need to be competing on food safety. Let's have the standards, and then we can measure them from there.
Yeah, and those standards have to go across food, feed, fiber, and fuel. I mean, I think that's so important. Even if you think about the renewable discussion this morning, right, about the carbon index and, you know, corn versus soy versus, there has to be that credibility, standardization, and transparency that allows us collectively within the overall system to work. That is just so important.
And I'll just end markets. There's no greater force than markets. Markets create the integration. We need a carbon market in the U.S. that's stronger than the European carbon market. These incentives that are in place are going to create the power of that. But the power of economy in a marketplace is, and I think what we have, Europe doesn't have, is an integrated agriculture that can get there faster. They may have had the incentives faster. They've got a carbon market that's much higher price, but it's built on incentives. We create a carbon market, everything that's just been said, it will happen in 5 years or less.
That's it's going to be exciting to see, because I think one of the barriers that a lot of producers tell us right now is just, you know, show me the money. We're willing to invest, but we want to see what the outcome is going to be to enable them to afford these new tools and technologies. And one of the questions that came in, and Aaron, I'll throw this at you, is you know, we have some great precision ag technology out there, but it comes with a price tag, as it should, because you have to cover all your prices, all your costs of producing it. Any thoughts on what can be done to lower the bar for greater adoption of new technologies? Should there be anything from the federal government or private sector? Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that we think about a lot at Deere, and we're doing some things that I'd like to talk through. You know, I think there are multiple ways for us to get more precision technology capabilities into the hands of more producers so that we can utilize it on more acres. One of those would be policy. You know, I think there are some efforts underway with the Precise program and the Precision Ag Lending program that would help customers take advantage of precision ag solutions through government actions. But at Deere, we're actually changing the business model for precision ag components by using a solutions as a service model, where we're actually lowering the upfront cost of the technology and shifting it to a pay-as-you-go model. So the customers now pay a much lower price for that initial technology component. They begin using it, and as they use that technology, they pay for it either on an annual subscription basis or a per-acre subscription basis, depending on the individual technologies. The other thing is that we're continuing to make investments in those capabilities, and they're getting better over time. So for us, we see it as a really unique opportunity to really have a wider range of customers take advantage of our technologies, but also then helping those customers take advantage of the improvement of those technologies as we continue to release new software updates into those various solutions. So that's what we're focused on, and I think that that's really going to help customers drive more precision utilization. So
to the rest of you, is in general, what would a helpful federal government policy look like versus perhaps what is a harmful federal government policy on advancing climate smart practices? Are there some things that you're seeing now that you think are really good, others that you think maybe should go away?
I mean, this is a little bit of a broken record, but the opportunity for us to collaborate with regulators, or at least bring us to the table to have the conversation. I'll give you an example. Plastics. What's happening right now in Europe and Canada is disastrous for any product that is in a container. I don't know what they expect us to do. I guess bring in our Tupperware and put salad mix in the Tupperware that sat in the back of our car. I mean, this is a real issue, and we're supportive of moving towards sustainable, eventually home compostable products, but we got to have the product and the design and the collaboration. So just, putting policies out there that are going to be so damaging, once again, to the farmer that is trying to sell their products by eliminating plastic. I mean, think about it. Think about how much is in, I'll pick on fruits and vegetables for right now, that you go in, that you're buying in a package. And less than 0.1% of consumers actually do composting at home? That's probably generous. And so I think the opportunity, it absolutely squarely from a regulatory standpoint, we need to be smart about this. Everybody wants to move towards a more sustainable planet. Absolutely. What should you do? Eat more fruits and vegetables. Aside from that, the opportunity is to be able to come up with solutions that will work for all of our industries, quite frankly, and not once again put the burden on the farmer, where it's going to be really difficult, well, quite frankly, impossible. You'll eliminate categories in the store or on the plate if we're heading in that direction. And I promise you, we are lobbying hard against that in both Canada and in Europe.
Yeah, I think to build on what Cathy said, I think we need to really manage the burden that we do put on the farmers at farm gate. I mean, we're all working in regulated industries, and if I think like with the EPA, with the Endangered Species Act, which I mean, like precision application would help, but still, when you look at the PULAs and everything that's going on, there's just a lot there where we need to ensure that the practices are being in place make sense for farmers, that they are able to apply what is really required. And I just think, if you think at our industry, it's more regulated than it has ever been. So we all just need to work together to bring some common sense. Because as Cathy said, we all want to do the right thing. Absolutely, but we need to make sure that there's some common sense and true logic, and that farmers and the industry, if it's through R&D, are also getting incentives to do the right things when they are doing those things. I just think that's very important, and I think sometimes there's those in the industry that regulate that maybe underestimate that.
I would say just on the incentives. I mean, there's a lot of movement right now on funds to drive the environment. What American agriculture can do is convert that into more value quickly, and it's a bridge to create something that's sustainable. And I'll speak mostly for animal agriculture, that what can be done with the IRA work and what the money's there. It can be converted into a system that could be working in a self-sustained way in just a few years. And so I think we're probably not as good in agriculture to step up and lean in, and I think we need to do that over the next couple of years as a catalyst, as an accelerator, and as a bridge to get to something that is sustainable. So I'm going to say I think what the government can do is we need agriculture can actually prove out and have a bigger impact on the environment quicker in a more value chain sustainable way than any other industry. So I think we need to be leaning in and asking for that.
Lars, a question came in for you about remote sensing. And tell us a little bit about your perspective on, will it replace traditional measurement and sampling, even at deeper soil depths?
Yeah, short answer is not completely, no, not completely ever, but it's a good excuse to just evangelize a little bit about how important soil carbon is and what a tremendous opportunity I think it's providing us as an industry. And some people may know this, but most don't. Just in the top 3 feet of soil, there is 3 times as much carbon as in the entire atmosphere, and 5 times more carbon than all the plants and trees on the surface of the earth. So you think of every single tree planting program, it does something, but does very little compared to what the soil can do. And so what that taught me is like, well, soil or carbon's in 2 spots. It's either in the atmosphere or it's in the soil. Those are literally the 2 places that it's stored. It transitions from those 2 places by plants growing and decaying. And so we've got this fascinating opportunity of the only industry that is part of our industrial production is a positive climate impact. Every other industry just has to contend with doing less and burning less fuel. We have foods today that are produced carbon positively. We're the only industry that 36% of the global emissions are from food and agriculture, but that's the net. There's a whole bunch of today positively produced foods that are canceling out some of that other negatively produced foods. And I think everything we're talking about here is about how can we move the needle over that, but we are the only industry that can actually move from 36 to 0 to maybe even the other direction. That's not out of the realm of possibility. So I think there's a lot of focus on how you measure, how you do that, but at bigger picture, it's, I think, an exciting place to be.
Well, absolutely, and that's if you can't get excited about this conversation, I don't know what's holding you back. So, Jeff, you talked a little bit about the inset market, and you guys have been Elanco's been a real leader in working with other collaborators on that. We have a lot of folks here that may not understand how that really works. We talk a lot about carbon offsets, but explain to us how you set that up with your partners.
Yeah, I think sometimes when people say, hey, we're going to get something that's climate neutral or, greenhouse gas neutral, all these, it can be, hey, I'll do this, but I'll buy, something down in Brazil that's being done in the Amazons. That's an offset, right? Or United Airlines comes in and buys a bunch of carbon from agriculture. That's offset. An inset is to truly take, and at our last board meeting, I had Nestle's had a sustainability all the way to a California dairy farmer all the way through, and five parties there kind of across the board. And the ultimate is this: Nestle, or I picked Nestle, but it can be, you name it, any dairy company or dairy co-op, their top concern right now is 66% of Gen Z. I'm a father of 6 of them. They care about what the environment, why they are not eating animal protein is more driven not by the dietary needs, but tell me that product's going to be environmentally friendly. So for the beef and dairy industry, looking around the corner, they're most concerned about Gen Z and anyone under 25 years of age. So they for 1% cost, here's the proposition. Will you for 1 or 2% cost, this isn't ESG, yeah, they will reduce scope 3, but by putting that on, they can brand it, but candidly, I think it's table stakes now to say this is what we do. That converts to $25, $30 per cow per day. And so they actually will line themselves up in a marketplace where their milk, comes from this dairy farm in CDI in California, and they actually will buy carbon from an independent player that's now established. There's one company called Cathy, and there's others that actually get the data from the dairy farm in California, and then interventions that they're using, a biodigester or genetics or a vaccine program or Bovaer, and they'll buy the carbon, and that will actually convert to the money that actually becomes a bank. That's an inset market that becomes sustainable. That's what Europe doesn't have right now. This is the first livestock sustainable market ever set. This is why incentives fuel us to that state. 5 years from now, we're on a path to climate neutral farming and cattle, because fruit and vegetables are great, but what's in the center of the plate, everybody, right? I'm sorry. I had to get a plug in there.
Can I respond? I feel like
Who doesn't want a steak or even a piece of fish? But anyway, okay, I'm sorry.
fruit and vegetables are supposed to be half your plate.
That's right.
So
that's
you
right.
can have the other
Okay,
half.
Okay, that's good.
Just give us our half.
Right now, I just want to be on the plate.
It's a right balance of protein
I
and
liked
carbs.
your alternative protein thing, though. That's
Yeah, well, just eat your fruits and vegetables.
Okay. Sorry, I had to get in there.
So just a couple of last questions here. We're going to have to wrap up, unfortunately. But Aaron, you also are working on electric vehicles in the ag equipment industry, and exciting stuff ahead. But also we have some regulatory challenges in states like California on some things like that. What's the status of your development of electric tractors and other equipment?
Yeah, at the beginning of the session, you mentioned we had launched our LEAP ambitions back in 2022, talking about some of the high-level objectives that we as a company want to achieve. As part of those LEAP ambitions, we announced that we would have a fully electric, fully autonomous agricultural tractor in market by 26. So we're getting close. And we're making investments towards that. My prior role, actually, I was leading the work of that particular program. You know, electrification has a lot of opportunities for us in terms of sustainability and reducing our carbon emissions, and that's one of the areas that we're focusing on for that particular product, but it's also creating value for our customers. It's, and we see really limited segments where customers are wanting electrified products, particularly in the high-value crop space in California. And we see that really as our first foray into bringing that product to the marketplace. And we've had several early development program machines operating with several customers across the West Coast, but also in some other parts of the world. And we are on track to bring that to market in 2026. You know, a lot of people say, are you going to see a fully electric, large-scale ag machine that we sell today? No, we're not. The battery capabilities aren't quite there yet. And to do the work of the recently launched 9RX that's 830 horsepower, the amount of batteries we would have to replicate that amount of horsepower would probably fill this room. So that's a long way off before we're going to see large machines be fully electric. But we do see machines in the space where they need small size that go under the canopies of almonds and other crops. This is a perfect application for them, and we see demand. And so customers are really wanting to have that solution. So we're going there.
Thanks for that update. Lars, I'm going to let you have the last word here just in terms of where you see future collaborations for your technology. Where is it going to be in 5-10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe a short version is I can settle the meat versus fruit and vegetables debate. You can have both of them as long as they were produced on soil that was increasing soil carbon, not decreasing soil carbon. So
I did not say you couldn't eat meat. Let's be clear. We're just going to share the plate.
And I think that really is actually an anecdote for where we see it going. I think, and through the data we were talking about before, farmers are always going to own their data. If we all make it really easy for them to bring that data to whatever market's going to give them best value for it, and backing up and substantiating the claims that their ingredients are making, that leads us to the kind of decommoditized new era that I think we're all trying to help get to, which means a lot more revenue for our producers in this country.
All right, well, we'll end on that note. Thank you for your great comments. Please show them a round of applause. What a great discussion. We're going to break, not out of the room. We're going to just take a quick switch here because Phil Brasher is going to come up and lead our next session. But before we do that, we've got a short video from one of our sponsors, Edge Dairy Cooperative.
Hi, I'm Brody Staple, a dairy farmer and president of Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative. As a farmer, I appreciate the opportunity to represent my peers at the table for such important discussions in the agricultural community. As the third largest dairy cooperative in the country, Edge advocates for farm families throughout the Midwest on federal policies. We make sure that the voices of farmers are heard. As the spotlight starts to shine on the 2023 Farm Bill, let's be sure to put an emphasis on the word farm. Whether it's environmental sustainability, risk management, food security, or any number of other things touched by the legislation, we know that farmers can drive solutions. So hear for yourself from some Edge members who are focused on the future in the areas of sustainability, technology, and consumer trust.
For our farm, the most important part of sustainability is to have a consumer that wants our product and trusts us. To do that, we have to show them what we do for the cows, how we take care of the land, and what we do to conserve our natural resources.
I think we have to embrace technology. I think the future of the industry is going to be about more information for the consumer, more control of where their product comes from.
We have tremendous growth happening right now. It appears that growth is going to continue for a long time. I think the producer base is allowing processors to continue to invest and have confidence to invest because the milk is going to be there.
As the Farm Bill conversation expands, decision makers have an opportunity to show even more leadership by connecting with farmers and sitting together at the table. The more connected we all are, the more effective and workable the outcomes can be. So connect with Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative at voiceofmilk.com.